Hello, everybody. Welcome to my live for today. So it's first thing Monday morning. Hopefully, everybody had a good weekend. All right. So, what's the subject for the live today? Well, we're going to be talking about medical waivers and specifically vaccinations. Okay. Because those are making a lot of issues now. So, I thought I would talk about it, let you know how it affects the immigration and medical waivers and what can be done about it, and so forth. Okay? And whether or not you can waive them. All right. So, and then what I'll do is I'll go back. I will see what questions we have, and then I'll answer them, and then I'll go give my own consults. Come after the live. Alrighty. So, as you know, as you probably know, there's lots of different kinds of waivers in immigration law, and one of them, of course, is medical waivers. And not every medical condition you have needs to be waived. Now, what that means is that for certain medical conditions, you are inadmissible to the U.S. if you have them. And if you're inadmissible, it's possible to get a waiver so that immigration says, well, forget about the inadmissibility, you can come in. Okay. And so the question is, what can you waive? Well, there are certain conditions that people would have of which they would need to be vaccinated. Okay, let's start off with COVID. Okay. If you're a U.S. citizen and you don't want to get the vaccination, that's your business. Okay. But if you want to get the green card, you're going to need to get the vaccination. You are inadmissible if you don't get vaccinated. Okay, it's simple as that. So the question would be, is there a waiver available for it? Now, there's different kinds of waivers. There's the medical waiver if you want the green card, and then there's the non-immigrant waiver, which, would encapsulate a medical waiver if needed. So let's talk about the green card waiver first. Now, there is a waiver if you don't want to get vaccinated, but you can't just come and say, well, I don't believe in the vaccination, or the scientists are wrong, or, I don't think it'll work for me, or I've decided not to vaccinate my kids. Okay. You can't just say that because your, desire not to vaccinate yourself or whatever is fine, but you're not going to be admissible into the U.S. if you're not vaccinated. So the waiver comes in if there is a really bona fide, legitimate reason as to why you're not getting vaccinated. And of course, one of them would be religious. Okay, now again, you can't just say, my religious belief prohibits me from getting vaccinated. That is insufficient, because then, of course, anyone who didn't want to get vaccinated but wanted to get the green card could say that. So you're going to have to back that up with a lot of proof, a lot of evidence, a lot of history, declarations, a lot of other matters to show that you have a true religious belief. So, for example, I've had cases where, they got vaccinated for several other things in the past, but then they just decided they didn't want to get COVID, right? And so your argument of it being a religious reason doesn't carry a lot of weight if in your past you have several other vaccinations. Okay? I mean, that's why it really has to be a long-standing belief that will be legitimate and real for that to happen. There's also a medical reason. I mean, you could get a medical waiver for a medical reason as to why you're not getting vaccinated if there is, sufficient medical evidence that either it really won't work on you or your condition, whatever it happens to be, is such that the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks associated with whatever it is you have. Okay? So, in order to do that, you have to make sure that you really have legitimate, true, good legal arguments. Okay, um, I mean, otherwise you're just gonna have to get vaccinated. I've had people and clients since the COVID thing where they try to make that's why I'm saying this. They try to make the religious reason for getting the waiver, and then all I have to do is say, well, did you get vaccinated for smallpox? Did you get vaccinated for measles? Their answer is normally yes. I go, well, then how could your religion allow you to get vaccinated for that, but not for COVID? Okay. So that's that. And as far as medical, generally, if someone has a lot of medical conditions, are elderly, and that the input of a vaccine would actually make their condition worse or would risk them being hospitalized, then of course they would be able to do the waiver as well. Okay, so that's how that would work in order to make certain that you can get the medical waiver for the vaccine under those reasons. Obviously, if you have something and it is, for example, contagious, and you're saying you want a waiver because you just don't want to get it, immigration could care less because you're going to come in and you're going to infect other people. So the waiver being granted would have to also have arguments as to how you will protect society, okay, if you're granted the waiver. If you're, for example, trying to get a waiver because you don't want the COVID vaccine on religious reasons, what are you going to show them to show that you will not infect your neighbors and the workers and everybody else? Okay, are you going to be wearing a mask? Are you going to be distancing? You have to show those things in order to have a chance at getting the waiver done. Okay? All right. Well, short, sweet, and to the point. All right. So let's just scroll back here, and I know it's Monday, so a lot of people are tired. They're not yet up. They don't have all their questions formulated, but whatever. Let me just go down and see. Oh, thanks for the hearts. Let me just go down and see what we have. Okay. All right. So let me just scroll down here. So if anybody can answer this, why does it say sometimes when I'm scrolling down, invite so and so to join live as a guest? Is that just random, or does that person specifically want to come on as a guest so I can give them a consultation in front of everybody? Okay, let me know. Because, well, I see that periodically, but I'm unclear about that. Okay. Let's see what we have. Okay, DHS waived appeal in court. Can I file my 485 right away? Well, this is from Sal. That depends. Okay? I mean, DHS waiving appeals great. That means you had a decent case, and for whatever reason they don't want to appeal it, so that makes it a final decision. But your question doesn't tell me if you qualify for a 485. You could have won your court case, but you still might not qualify for a 485, which is an adjustment of status. Okay? So if they if you went to court and you won, was the case terminated? Because normally, if you're in immigration court, you would file the adjustment in court. meaning you would have already done the 45 a long time ago, and the judge would have granted it. And then you're saying that the DHS has waived appeal. So I need to know, why didn't you file the 485 already? Why haven't you filed for the adjustment, as part of the immigration proceedings? That doesn't make sense to me. Okay? So I need more information. All right. Let us scroll down. See, every fourth one, there's a invite so-and-so to join as a guest. Is anybody gonna let me know? All right. I know it's kind of quiet now while I'm scrolling down, but I have to scroll to see the questions. Okay. All right. So this is from Thera. The vaccine for smallpox and others were tested over 20 years ago. This was tested less than a year. Okay. Well, what you're saying is that you don't believe that the FDA has, with all their scientists and all the evidence, has been able to properly give evidence and backing on why there should be a vaccine. So I'm not here to give my opinion on the matter, other than the fact is, if you do not get the COVID vaccine, you're inadmissible. And of course, it's been way more than a year. I mean, the peak of COVID was about 4 years ago. So, it's about 5 years old. But if you're talking about the boosters every year, there's no requirement for immigration purposes that you get the booster every year, as long as you got the original vaccine. And the original being whenever the first one is that you get. You can't make the argument on a waiver that the smallpox and others were tested for over 20 years, and this was tested for less than a year, and therefore you don't believe its validity. Okay? The reality is, your belief in the validity of the vaccine does not supersede hundreds of scientists, with medical degrees and PhDs and tons of research years, who have submitted what they need to under the law to the FDA to get it approved. Okay? I mean, whether you're right or wrong here is not relevant to whether or not a waiver will be granted. That is not a valid argument to get the waiver. Period. Okay? Your belief that it's not effective is not a valid argument. Okay? I mean, if you don't want the green card, that's fine. But if you want the green card, you need to get the vaccine. And if you want to get a waiver of the vaccine, you need to do it on a legally recognized path. Not that you don't believe it's effective or not effective. That will not work. Okay? And that's the same thing if you get a non-immigrant waiver. If you get a non-immigrant waiver because you're not vaccinated, you likewise have to make arguments as well. With a non-immigrant waiver, you have more leeway as to the type of arguments you could make. But again, you will not succeed if your argument is that they only tested it for a year and so forth. Whether or not that's even true or not is unclear, okay? But it's not their burden to prove that you are incorrect. It's your burden to prove that you want the waiver. If you want to come into the U.S., it is your burden to prove that you deserve the waiver. Okay? That's how it is. All righty. Let's see. Okay. Sal. Oh, this is the guy that you. Oh, now I got it. Okay. You won asylum and DHS doesn't want to appeal, and now you want to know if you can file a 485 right away. No, You cannot. The law is you have to wait 1 year, okay? You must wait 1 year to file it. If you file it 360 days after you get the grant, it'll be denied, even if the adjudication of it is a year and a half. Okay? So just have it prepared and ready to be filed. Okay? So good for you. And then if you have any people outside the country who qualify as derivatives, you can file the I-730s for them to come in as a derivative asylees. Okay? So glad you cleared that up. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Let's see what else we have here. Okay. Let me see. Just a minute. Okay, GW. I know this isn't related to the topic, but do you know the estimated wait for the U visa? It's a long time. GW. You know my high school I went to was GW? Back in Denver, Colorado. It's approaching 10 years. It's a very long time. So if there's other stuff you qualify for, go for it. Okay? It's like two horses going around the track. By the way, if you're qualifying for a U, I always question to see if maybe they qualify for a T, because there's no backlog for the T. Okay? And it's way nicer if you qualify and way faster. Okay? Not to say it's easy. Nothing is easy in immigration. That's why I always find funny sometimes. People will say, can you tell me the easiest way to get a green card? You know? Well, you may as well forget that, because there is no easy way. Okay. Let's see. Any update about the positive green card, asylum base? You're talking about, people who won, and then our wonderful president has ordered to put a pause on it while they do whatever they're doing. There's not an update yet, okay? But don't despair, okay? You can't just snap your fingers and make someone who followed the law, who went to court, or affirmatively did it in the asylum office, has an approval, and now qualifies to apply. You can't just magically say they don't qualify anymore, okay? So it's going through the court system. I'm very confident that at the end of the day, those people will be able to adjust to get the green card, okay? So don't despair. Okay. Well, despair, but not too much, okay? There's light at the end of the tunnel there. Alrighty. Let's see what else we have here. You are welcome, GW. Okay. I think that's going to do it for the live for today. So there you go. If anybody has any further questions, don't hesitate to call. Okay? So that's that. All right. Everybody have a good day.